Now, when it comes to Blueface, well, buckle in, because what I am about to walk you through is not a rumor, not a whisper, and not one of those cute little internet fairy tales the blogs love to spin for a slow Tuesday. What we are looking at right now is a full-blown, five-alarm meltdown of a career, a reputation, and a man's entire public identity. And the worst part is that the same Blueface who used to sit courtside grinning like nothing could touch him is the one holding the match. Leave a like right now if you want the truth unfiltered, because we are not tiptoeing around this one. Not today. And well, before we even get into the Orlando Brown of it all, let me set the table for the ones just walking through the door, because Blueface is not a small name. He is not some background extra in this rap thing. And that is exactly why every ounce of what is spilling out about him right now hits so much harder than it would for anybody else. He built a lane. He got famous off a rhythm nobody else could figure out. He married chaos to charisma and turned that combo into a checkbook. And now, in the span of one prison bid, one Instagram live, and one Orlando Brown appearance, Blueface has managed to walk that entire brand off a cliff, and, honestly, the cliff might be the safest place he lands. Because what is waiting at the bottom of the cliff, based on what is being said right now, is not a soft grass field. It is a full field of receipts, and the receipts are on fire. Here is the setup, and pay close attention, because the timeline matters. He goes away. He does his time. According to Blueface himself, he hit the minimum yard, kept the points climbing, stayed on active status, and walked out on his own terms, 3 weeks ahead of schedule, with a whole speech ready about how he did everything, and I quote him loosely here, the correct way. Cool. Beautiful. Congratulations on the release. Except the second the gate closed behind him, the internet started noticing that this new post-prison version of Blueface did not look like the old one at all. He came home 30 pounds heavier, dressed different, walking different, talking different, and wearing a face full of tattoos that looked less like street ink and more like somebody dumped a bag of corporate logos onto a coloring book. And that is where the whole thing cracks open. Because you see, once folks got up close on those tattoos, the story stopped being funny. There is a Telegram logo sitting on his cheek. There is what looks like a Walgreens under his eye. There is a Chase Bank symbol, a St. Laurent, a Washington Nationals patch, a Major League Football stamp, all inked into a face that used to belong to a man the industry called a pretty boy, a face that used to belong to Blueface, back when Blueface still looked like Blueface. And once that word gets thrown around, once you hear people say pretty boy about a man who just walked into a place where pretty is a target, well, the questions start writing themselves. Why the sudden facial camouflage? Why the rush to look ugly? Why does a grown man walk out of a bid looking like a spam folder wearing sneakers? Some folks are saying Blueface intentionally defaced himself to become invisible to the wrong kind of attention on the inside, and I will say this much, that theory has legs, because the timing lines up in a way that is honestly a little too neat, a little too clean, a little too on schedule for a coincidence. But here is the thing, and this is where it stops being speculation and starts becoming an unraveling. Because it was not the internet that lit this fuse. It was not TMZ. It was not a blog. It was not a random Twitter account with a cartoon avatar. It was Orlando Brown, and Orlando does not do small statements. Orlando does not hedge. Orlando does not water it down. Orlando pulled up on camera, sat down, and said in the flattest voice possible that Blueface got up in there, that he got beat up, but not the kind of beat up you were thinking. And then he casually dropped a line about a nerve in the human body that I am not repeating twice, and left the internet to fill in the rest of the picture themselves. And baby, the internet filled it in. Oh, the internet filled it in with a Sharpie. And then it circled the answer. And then it laminated the answer. And then it printed the answer on a t-shirt. Now hold on, because I already know what half of you are typing in the comments. That is Orlando Brown. That is the same Orlando Brown who has said 100 things about 100 people, and half of the things sound like a movie script and the other half sound like a fever dream. Correct. I hear you. But here's the twist that the defenders do not want to sit with. Every single time Orlando talks, no matter how wild the delivery gets, receipts eventually follow. Ask Nick Cannon. Ask Diddy. Ask half the industry that laughed the first time and had to swallow the joke the second time. And in this particular case, the receipts are not sitting in some conspiracy folder on a burner phone in a cave somewhere. The receipts are sitting on Blueface's own Instagram live, in his own words, on his own girlfriend's timeline, and if you have been paying attention for even 5 minutes, you already know that Blueface has a talent for confessing to things nobody even asked him about. Let me walk you through it. Blueface hops on a stream. His chat, the same chat that has watched Blueface for years, starts asking a pretty simple question. How often does Blueface get tested? And without a blink, without a flinch, without a shred of self-preservation, he says he does not test. He says as long as his pregnant girlfriend, whichever bird is in the nest this week, gets her checkup, then he assumes he is fine by association. Read that back to yourself. Read it out loud if you have to. A grown man, a father many times over, a public figure with a body count he brags about in the 4 digits on rolling cameras, has decided that his personal health screening is outsourced to whoever is currently carrying his child. If that is not the single most terrifying sentence a pregnant woman could hear a partner say on camera, I do not know what is. And she laughed. She laughed. Nervously, sure, but she laughed. And that is a whole separate conversation for a whole separate video. And well, this is the part that makes the Orlando Brown clip stop feeling like a joke. Because the second Blueface said that, the room got quiet. The chat got quiet. The blogs got quiet. And then somebody in Blueface DMs slid a message into his girlfriend's inbox saying that he had passed an infection to another woman he had been messing with. When she confronted him on live, on camera, in front of the whole audience, he did not do the thing a healthy man does. He did not say, let us go to a clinic together, honey. He did not say, I will handle this quietly. He laughed, brushed it off, told her whatever her results said would be his results, and then, and I want you to picture this frame by frame, Blueface hopped on his Instagram story holding a plate of salad, and in the same photo, right there on his palm, was a patch of skin discoloration that looked exactly like what a flare-up of an untreated infection looks like on human hands. He posted it himself. He walked outside without an umbrella and told the sky to rain. And the sky, being the sky, obliged him. And now, and this is the part where the tape really starts screeching, because none of this is happening in a vacuum. Blueface has a history, a long, long history of doing and saying things that make even his own defenders shift in their seats. On more than one occasion, in front of a rolling camera, Blueface has said out loud that he finds a woman's natural cycle more disgusting than what comes out of a man's body. On a live stream that DDG was hosting, Blueface asked his girlfriend at the time for lubricant so he could pursue what he called the box. In a public back and forth with Chrisean, Blueface was accused by her of having a search history that pointed in a direction the loyalists prefer not to discuss. On Chrisean's stream, Blueface casually mentioned an encounter with a little person, and when his own girlfriend's first instinct was to ask if that little person was a man or a woman, nobody in the room seemed shocked. That reaction alone, that split-second reaction from the person who was closest to him at the time, tells you everything about what the people around Blueface have quietly always suspected but were too polite or too paid to say out loud. And this is where it gets worse, because a while back, a drag performer named Cole Carrigan came out publicly and said Blueface had allegedly slid into his messages trying to link up for what he described as a private evening. Cole did not just say it. Cole posted screenshots. Cole posted what he claimed was video evidence. Cole handed the receipts to the timeline and dared Blueface to sue. And what did Blueface do? He said it was all entertainment. He said he separates his real life from the virtual world. He said he was the truth. He said everything except the one thing a man in that position typically says, which is I will see you in court. That silence, that specific silence, is the loudest thing Blueface has ever said. That silence is a paragraph. That silence is a signed confession written in invisible ink. And the internet reads invisible ink for a living. Now, hold on, take a breath, because if that were the whole story, this would already be a wrap. But Orlando Brown was not done. Orlando then took the temperature up another 12 degrees and floated the idea that the man walking around wearing the Blueface name right now might not even be the original one. Orlando looked at the belly, looked at the tattoos, looked at the general shape of this new post-prison figure, and told the camera that the real version has always been skinny, that this new version does not add up, and that whatever came out of that facility on release day is not the same person who walked in. I am not endorsing the cloning talk. I am reporting the cloning talk. Because that is what Orlando said. And when you stack it next to everything else the man has done since coming home, you start to understand why so many people are refusing to laugh it off. Is it a clone? Almost certainly not. But is it a man who has been through something that changed him beyond recognition? On that, the jury is not even out. The jury has ordered lunch. And well, this is the part where the receipts really start writing the script. Because Chrisean, back when she and Blueface were at war over the whole Offset situation, tweeted a line that at the time everybody scrolled past. She said, and I am paraphrasing gently, that she saw a certain type of search history on his phone, that she got a cover-up tattoo because she did not want a man like that on her neck, that there was nothing wrong with a man being bisexual, but that a girl deserves to know before she falls in love. That tweet is still up. That tweet is still searchable. That tweet, in retrospect, reads less like a diss and more like a warning label somebody tried to peel off a bottle of medicine. And now, with the Orlando Brown clip on the table, and with Blueface openly refusing to get tested, and with a new pregnant girlfriend caught in the crossfire, that warning label is glowing neon in a dark room. And the room is full. And I want to pause here, because there is a real human being at the center of this. There is a baby coming. There is a woman carrying that baby. There are, according to the streets, 2 other alleged pregnancies attached to him arriving later this year. And Blueface's entire medical safety plan is, and I am not making this up, we can play the audio back if you want, that his girlfriend gets tested for both of them. That is not a joke. That is not a punchline. That is a public health emergency wearing a chain. Somebody, somewhere, please check on that child. Please check on that mother. Please check on the women he is not naming. Because at some point the funny stops being funny, and this crossed that line a while ago, and every clip that goes viral crosses it a little further. And you know what really cracks the whole thing wide open? The fact that when the internet asked Blueface, point blank, when was the last time he saw a doctor, Blueface laughed. He said he does not need to. He said his girlfriend goes to the doctor for both of them. His chat asked when he gets tested. He said he does not. He said as long as she is clean, he is clean. That is the logic of a man who either does not understand how biology works or does not care how biology works, and neither one of those options is a good look on a father of multiple children who has openly said his body count runs into the thousands. That is not a joke either. That is a number the man himself put on the record. So please, please, do the math with me for 1 second. Thousands. No testing. No protection, allegedly. A pregnant partner. 2 more on the way. That is not a lifestyle. That is a spreadsheet begging for a crisis. Now, at this point, some of you are going to say, well, all of this is chatter, none of it is proof, Orlando is Orlando, Cole is Cole, Chrisean is Chrisean, the current girlfriend is the current girlfriend, so what is the smoking gun? And I hear you. I do. But here is what I keep circling back to. When one person accuses you, it is a rumor. When 2 people accuse you, it is a coincidence. When 5 separate people from 5 separate corners of your own life, over 5 different years, all point at the same door, that is not a coincidence anymore. That is a pattern. And Blueface, at this exact moment in his life, is standing in the doorway of that pattern with a plate of salad in one hand and a rash on the other, telling us to trust him. Nobody is buying that pitch. Nobody. Not the streets, not the blogs, not the labels, and definitely not the health department, if they are watching, which I hope somebody in a lab coat is. And let me be honest with you, because this channel has always kept it a stack, this is not a takedown for sport. This is not one of those We Hate Blueface hit pieces disguised as journalism. There was a time when Blueface was one of the more entertaining acts in the whole thing. He had a run. He had records. He had a mama the internet fell in love with for about a week and a half. He had a spark. But that spark got handed to a man who kept walking it into gasoline over and over and over until the fire became the whole personality. And now, watching what is happening in real time, watching Blueface tell on himself in high definition on a Tuesday afternoon while a pregnant woman sits next to him laughing nervously, you realize that the takedown is not coming from Orlando. The takedown is coming from the subject himself. Orlando is just the microphone. Cole is just the microphone. Chrisean is just the microphone. Every single one of them is holding a mic, and every single one of them is pointing it at the same guy. And this is where I want to zoom out, because there is a bigger conversation buried under all this noise, and the internet keeps missing it. This is not just about one rapper and one prison vid. This is about a whole culture that has been trained to laugh when men in the spotlight signal, out loud, on camera, in the plainest possible words, that something is not right, and then act shocked when the receipts finally land. Blueface has been telling us who he is for years. The little person comment. The lubricant clip. The son interrogation, where a grown man sat and asked a 6-year-old child about his sexuality, and then invited dancers to the house to, quote-unquote, prove something. That video is still online. That video is still searchable. That video, in a healthy environment, would have ended a career on the spot. Instead, we clipped it, memed it, and moved on, and he kept escalating, because every time we laughed, he took the laugh as permission to go one step further. That is on him. But some of it, if we are being real, is on us too. And well, that is why Orlando's clip hit so hard. Because Orlando did not have to convince anybody of anything. Orlando just had to point at a picture we had already been staring at and put a name on it. That is the whole trick. That is why it is trending. That is why the numbers on this story keep climbing, day after day, clip after clip, reaction video after reaction video. And the sad part, the really sad part, is that the response to all of it has been the same response he has given to every crisis of his adult life, which is to grin, to double down, to post something inflammatory, to promise a test and then not take it, and to bet the entire farm on the assumption that his audience has the attention span of a goldfish. I am here to tell him, respectfully, that the goldfish are taking notes this time. The goldfish went and got a notebook. The goldfish are annotating the footage. And you want to know the twist of the whole thing? The twist is that even the people who defend him are not really defending him anymore. Read the comments. Scroll the replies. Watch the reaction videos. Even his own supporters are not saying he is innocent. They are saying Orlando is unreliable. They are saying Cole is dramatic. They are saying Chrisean is bitter. They are saying the current girlfriend is naive. Nobody, and I mean nobody with a clean conscience, is standing on a rooftop yelling that Blueface is a healthy, tested, monogamous, drama-free man of the year. That defense does not exist. It cannot exist. Because on camera, in his own voice, using his own microphone, he ruled it out himself. He wrote the eulogy for the defense before the defense was even called to the stand. Now, before we close this out, let me tell you exactly what to watch for next, because this story is not slowing down, it is speeding up. Watch for a sudden, out-of-nowhere clinic visit, complete with a photo of a clean lab result held up to the camera like a hostage sign, because that is the classic move, and it is coming. Watch for a soft launch apology on somebody's podcast, where he reframes the whole thing as growth. Watch for a mystery new girlfriend to appear on the page for exactly 72 hours to reset the narrative. Watch for Orlando Brown to do a follow-up that goes 10 degrees harder than the first, because Orlando smells the momentum, and Orlando has never left a plate of momentum sitting on the counter. And watch, very carefully, for the moment he stops joking about all of this, because the day the jokes stop is the day you will know the rumor was never a rumor. The day the smile drops is the day the story is confirmed. Bookmark this video. Come back to it in a month. Tell me if I called it or not. So, at the end of all this, where does that leave Blueface? It leaves him exactly where he has always insisted he wanted to be, which is at the center of every conversation in the room. Congratulations, you got it. But the room is different now. The room is not laughing with him anymore. The room is looking at him the way you look at a friend who keeps confessing to things at dinner and then asking why everybody got quiet. That is the room he built. That is the chair he has to sit in. That is the plate he has to eat off of. And unless something changes fast, and I mean surgically fast, that is the story he is going to be writing for the rest of his career, one Instagram live at a time, one Orlando Brown clip at a time, until there is nothing left of the brand but the punchline. All right, now let me hear from you, and I want the real answers, not the safe ones, not the diplomatic ones, not the ones you type when your grandmother might be reading. Do you believe Orlando Brown this time, yes or no? Do you think Blueface actually caught something behind those walls, or do you think he has been carrying this weight since long before he ever saw the inside of a cell? Do you think that pregnant girlfriend of his has any idea what she has walked into, or do you think she does know and does not care? Do you think the tattoos were a strategy or a breakdown? Do you think the cloning theory is nonsense, or do you think Orlando is onto something the rest of us are too scared to say out loud? And the biggest one, the one I want pinned to the top, what does he have to do, specifically, step by step, to earn back 1 ounce of the trust he has burned to the ground? Drop it in the comments. Argue with each other. Tag the ones who need to see it. Tag the ones who still defend him. That is where the real conversation lives, and I read every single one, even the mean ones, especially the mean ones. And well, if you made it all the way down here with me, you already know what to do. Leave that like. Hit subscribe if you are new. Ring the bell so you do not miss the follow-up, because trust me, there is a follow-up coming, and it is going to be uglier than this one. Way uglier. If you want the truly unfiltered version, the deep dives, the extra segments, the audio we cannot post out here on the main timeline, memberships are open. The link is sitting right in the description. And joining puts you in the front row of every story like this one before it hits the algorithm. That is not a pitch. That is an early warning system. Now, if you want to see the video that connects directly to this whole Blueface unraveling, the one where we broke down every single receipt Chrisean has ever posted about him, and why half of them predicted this exact moment 2 years before it happened, that video is right up there on your screen. Click it. Watch it. Come back and tell me if the timeline lines up the way I said it would. Because the deeper you go into this story, the clearer it gets, and by the end of that next one, you're going to see this whole situation, this whole man, this whole downfall, differently than you ever have. I will see you in that one. Peace.